I can.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today I would like to introduce Daniel Gold from Boise State University. He is the Associate Director of Learning Technology Solutions, and he's going to give you 3 reasons why you should be investing in middleware.
That's correct. All right. So thank you guys for joining us. I know it is 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday, which is kind of like the full day of the conference. My brain is gone at this point in time. So bear with me as we make it through this one. We're going to be talking about a little bit of a technical topic. I'm going to try and wax philosophically about it a little bit. I won't go too deep though, I promise. And I thought this is generally not considered a really sexy topic when you're thinking about middleware on your campus. But I'm going to try and make it interesting. I'm going to try and show you how this is something that at Boise State we're really excited about and helps us think a little bit differently about how we handle technology integration on campus. But before I get too deep into it, I thought it might be good for us to level set a little bit and talk about what middleware is in general. So is anybody using middleware solution on campus? Are you familiar with the term? Have you heard it before? Okay, excellent. This is a good place to start. Okay, so middleware has lots of different definitions, right? As far as I went out online and tried to find some that were kind of sort of technical, sort of not technical. How do we explain this to different people? And I found five different kind of definitions, varying degrees of good. And I thought I'd run through those, and the last one's my favorite by far. So the first one is computer software that connects software components or applications. Okay, this is fairly descriptive, but it's not, doesn't really tell us a whole lot about it. The second one I found, which I actually like an awful lot, is middleware is the slash and client server. This one is a little bit more like a Zen cone, though, than it is helpful, so we're going to go ahead and skip it and move on to the next one. Software that mediates between an application program and a network. I almost feel like we've gone the wrong direction with this one, so we're going to bring it back a little bit and just say any software that allows other software to interact. All right, that's actually not bad. But this last one is my personal favorite, and is really pretty descriptive of the way we kind of use this at Boise State. Middleware is software glue. On our campus, that's exactly what we looked at middleware to do. So when we first started out, and we've had a middleware application for a while now, and it sits in between PeopleSoft and Blackboard and helps the two communicate. So as far as taking things like sections and enrollments and majors and minors that exist on the PeopleSoft side and our student information system, and taking that information and translating it over into course sites, rosters, and non-credit course sites, which we call like plan sites in Blackboard. These are pretty much, we take everybody who's in a particular major and we throw them all into a Blackboard course site, which can be used for communication, student resources, internship opportunities, that kind of fun stuff. So middleware is an application that sits in between. Now, middleware in general can be, and it often is in many environments, something that's totally transparent to the users. You would never know it was there. It just kind of handles the operations on the back end. And in that case, sometimes you'll hear that referred to as an enterprise service bus, right? It's a collection of web services that are used generally to gather information from one place and format it to spit it out into the next place. On our campus, we do things a little bit differently. We actually have a front end for this, so there's a place for the users to actually interact. So for faculty, course coordinators, and administrators to do their work. And so we actually built a middleware application years ago. Kind of early 2000s was the first time we did this. And we built it in JavaScript. And then that became kind of passé on our campus. Everyone moved to .NET, so we lost our JavaScript developers. This thing was starting to show its age. Blackboard and PeopleSoft evolved around it, and we had to think about what we were going to do. And so we were trying to decide, well, what's the value of this tool? Is this something we're going to invest in? Should we be moving in a different direction and maybe purchasing just a very simple connector that populates these things automatically? Should we create course sites for every course instead of giving faculty the flexibility to create their own course sites? How should we manage this? And so we had to kind of take a deep look at how our faculty were using Blackboard on campus and what their expectations were for Blackboard. I promise this whole thing isn't just about Blackboard. So if you're sitting here thinking, I'm a Canvas campus and I really don't care what you're saying right now, it gets better. But giving you where we started from. So to understand what we decided to do with this, you kind of have to understand a little bit about Boise State. So Boise State, it's about 22,000 students, 650 faculty. We create about 2,500 course sites every semester. About 50% of all of our offered sections are actually exist in Blackboard. But the truth is, when you take out the things in our catalog, like independent studies and workshops and other pieces, it's probably closer to 70-80% of courses that are kind of appropriate for Blackboard actually end up in Blackboard, or appropriate for an LMS.
I think when you add adjuncts, that number doubles. That's probably full-time faculty.
Yeah, okay, so that's true. We live and die by adjuncts like everybody else, right? So that's kind of our just demographic information. But when you get into what our campus values are and the things that have helped guide a lot of the decisions that we make, we have these things that we're dealing with. One is we have a really fierce stance on academic freedom. Faculty have the right to do what they want to do in their courses. They can look however they want, they can link it any way they want, they can create whatever they want, they can use it or not when it comes to the LMS system on campus. Totally up to them, complete academic freedom. As IT, we are not asked to interfere in any way on that. It also needs to be very flexible. They want to be able to choose, they don't want a course site for every, a shell for every course that they're teaching. They don't want that. That's not the way they like to roll. They don't want to be told when and how to merge course sites. If I'm teaching multiple sections, I might want them separate, I might want to merge, I might want to do both. You never know. I'll do it however I want, right? So they like that flexibility and they want that flexibility. They also want autonomy. They want to be able to make these decisions in isolation. They want to be able to handle their programs. If I'm a program coordinator and I've got an online nursing program, I want to be able to make the decisions about whether I'm copying content from one course to another, whether I'm enrolling teaching assistants or graduate assistants, whether I am enabling or disabling different features within those courses, all that stuff they want to have the autonomy to do. And this actually is one of the things that helped us think about, okay, well, what are we going to do with this middleware application? Are we going to retire it? We can't really retire it. We need to be able to offer this flexibility. It obviously needs a redesign. What are we going to end up doing with it? And so these are the things that we heard over and over and over again. First of all, it's got to be effortless to create the course sites. It's got to look exactly the way we want. It's got to allow them to manage those roles, those course roles, very easily and efficiently. It's got to allow them to choose when and how to combine their classes, and allow them to manage their programs, like I said, like those online nursing programs, in the way that they choose. So, with that in mind, the first reason that you should be investing in middleware, if any of these things sound familiar on your campus as far as what your faculty want to be able to do or want to have control over when they're dealing with an LMS or another system, the first reason you should be investing in middleware is flexibility. And so let me show you what our new middleware application that we recently redeveloped looks like. All right, so I'm going to give you a demonstration of creating course sites in our middleware application. The first thing you see when this page comes up, this is middleware. The first thing that the faculty see is information about how to perform the different actions in here. So the landing page is instructions. They can print that page if they need to. But there's three things that the faculty member can do. They can create courses, they can manage existing course sites that they've created in Blackboard, and they can manage their course site users. So for this, we're going to show you creating course sites. Now, when they click on this, the only thing they really need to choose here is what term they are teaching in. So this will query our student information system and pull back all of the courses that they've been assigned to teach. In this example, we're just going to create a single course site using a single section. So we'll choose one of these sections. We'll leave the radio button selected for one section per course site. And we'll go ahead and click continue. All right. The next thing that happens here is they get a chance to verify. They can change the name on their course site. A lot of people put in like the date and time that the course meets, or they might change it entirely because they don't like the default name that we give it. So they can change their course site name here pretty easily. They don't ever have to do that in Blackboard in any way. You can also verify that the section they chose is a section that's actually going to go into the course site, which is pretty helpful. And then they just click create. Now once they click create, they get a success message. Now we synchronize at Blackboard every 3 hours, so it tells them exactly what time and what day that course site will be available on Blackboard. It gives them a reminder to make their course available to students, and it shows them a survey link where they can tell us what they thought about the experience using the tool. We're going to do this again, but I'm going to show you creating a merged course site because it's just as easy. So if I'm teaching two sections of a course, if I'm teaching a cross-listed course, and I want to combine those students together so I can manage all those resources together. In this example, this instructor is teaching two sections of that 301 class. They just choose the radio up button option for multiple sections in one course site, click continue, change the name if they want to, quickly verify that both of their courses are going to be in that course site in Blackboard, and then again, click the create button. So it's really straightforward. It takes a couple of minutes for them to do. At the beginning of the semester, they do this to get their Blackboard course site set up, and it gives them that flexibility. The next thing they can do on this is edit existing course sites. So I've created my course sites, and what always happens is they've added another section, right? There's a lot of students, and now we've added another section out there available. I've already created my course. I've already got the course content in there. I don't really want to go through the process of copying that or doing anything else. I just want to add that section to my existing course site and merge it together. So in this example, I'm clicking on the edit button, and I can see there's already two sections in here. When I click edit, it takes me to this page where I can click the plus sign to add an additional class or section. It queries the student information system and brings back that list. I choose the two additional sections that have been added, click apply. I can see the plus sign next to them that says that there are new ones that will be added when I click the save button. Save. And no more than 3 hours later, that'll be available in Blackboard with those new courses added into that existing course site. All right, you can do the same thing with teaching assistants, course builders, graders, learning assistants, any of those roles that exist in Blackboard that you may have created. Same thing, find the section or find the term that you're dealing with. Once you search for it, instead of querying the student information system, since these are existing courses, it's querying Middleware to figure out what courses have already been created. It returns that list, you click on the edit button, there's a plus sign here to add users to it, and in this case we search by the user ID. So this could be a student ID, a faculty ID, a staff ID, it doesn't really matter. Once we search, then we have an option to choose which role they'll be given in the course. In this case I think I choose a course builder. So if you're working with an instructional designer or something who needs access, you can see that it's been added there. You click the save button. 3 hours later, no more than 3 hours later, that'll be available for you to see within the course site, and they can start working on that. All right, so those are the kind of basic things that an instructor can do, but as an administrator, there's stuff we have to do too. And one of the things we need to be able to do is, as we incrementally change this tool, we need to be able to manage the instructions that are there for faculty. We wanted to make sure that as we add new features kind of a little bit at a time, we had the ability to come back and change the content without ever changing a line of code. So if I have changes to instructions, changes to notifications, links to help content, I can do all of that without changing any code. And we did that through the administrative settings. So as an administrator, when they log in, there's 3 additional buttons that are available to them. There's major minor course sites, which we'll talk about in a second, the instruction administration, and system administration, which is just kind of like where the files go, all that kind of fun stuff. In this example, look at instruction administration. So here I can choose from any of the pages that exist within this tool. We'll do the landing page. And it'll bring back sort of a WYSIWYG editor where I can change all the content on that page. I can put a downtime notice. I can put a reminder to make course sites active. I can do any of those kind of things out here. So in this example, it's just, I'm adding hello world. It's instantly available, so when I go back out to the landing page, you can see that content has been added to that page. It makes it very, very easy for us to be reactive if something's changed in the environment or there's something unexpected that occurs. All right, the last piece that I'm going to show you here is major and minor sites. So these are, again, those kind of resource sites where we have everybody in a particular major or minor able to access student sort of resource information. What I need to do here really is just figure out what kind of career is it. Is it majors or minors? Is it undergrads, graduates, tech certificates? And then it'll query the student information system and bring back all of those pieces. In this example, I'm going to go ahead and do biology classes. So I'm going to take all the students who are in a graduate biology class and create a resource site for them. So I've got 3 majors out there. I've chose all those majors. I can come in here, change the title to be more descriptive, so that when they log into Blackboard, they see this course site that says Biological Sciences Student Resources. And that's where they can find their internship opportunities. That's where they can find maybe study abroad opportunities, whatever this case may be, graduate assistantships. Put in the site owner name, click create. 3 hours later, that'll be available for students if we so choose. So. All right, that's in a nutshell. Those are the kind of features that we had in Blackboard. Now, we've actually done a few things since I took those videos. So we've actually added the ability for instructors to choose a calendar date to allow them to choose when they want their course sites to become active. It defaults to the first day of the semester because we get about 400 calls every first week of class about why can't I see my Blackboard course site. And it's usually because they forgot they have to go into that crazy place in Blackboard where they actually locate the availability for students. It's in a weird customization feature, like teaching styles. I don't know, it's crazy. So we've added that feature, allows them to make it automatically available. And we also created a course copy feature. So as they're going through and requesting their course sites, they can use one of their previous sections that they've instructed, a previous course, as the source material. And it'll just copy it right over and let them hit the ground running. In a nutshell about the development on this one, so quick stats, it's done in .NET. We moved to a platform that we can actually develop in. We're using mostly delivered services, which is really important. We'll talk about that a little bit more later as far as what's available from PeopleSoft and Blackboard. It's part of our enterprise service bus, which we've created at Boise State. Also important, we'll talk about a little bit more in a second. And we're using Snapshot because we're archaic and crazy, and we want to use the Snapshot method for bringing things into Blackboard. If you're familiar with Blackboard, I don't think anybody else is really using this. I hope you're not, because it's not a fun way to do it. All right, things about it that we really wanted to focus on. We wanted to make sure we were using user-based models. So the different roles that people have as far as whether you're an administrator or a course coordinator or you're a faculty member, there's different things that you need to do. And so we want that interface to be representative of what you're doing and of the tasks that are important to you. And so we've created different user models. We've got data warehouse integration because in many cases, this middleware application is the only thing that understands the connection between the different systems. The systems themselves are dumb. The services are providing the information to middleware. Middleware is making a decision on it and then sending that information to somewhere else. And we're using reusable services, which is really important when we move further on into this presentation, that you have the ability to kind of build off what you have already designed and continue to grow and expand from there. All right, so how did this thing fare? Well, overall, like I mentioned, we had that survey link. They could tell us what we thought about it. At the time that I took these survey results for this presentation, 71% of people who went through and did that survey said that the ease of use was very good or excellent. 73% said the interface design was very good or excellent. We were pretty happy with those numbers. From a comments perspective from faculty, we got a lot of good stuff in there as far as like wonderful tool, best way of doing this. Thanks so much, and I really like this change. So they were very happy to see that we maintain that flexibility, but we changed that interface to make it a little bit easier for them to use. I don't have any screenshots of the old Java app. I can tell you it was atrocious. It was a crime against humanity. It should have never existed. Bad news from faculty. Some lessons learned on this one. Developers should not be in charge of marketing, right? Nobody knows what the heck an LMS is. Even though they work in it every single day, they have no idea what that acronym means or why I'm throwing it around. The other thing is middleware. Middleware is also a really big term. I'm really surprised that I actually have 4 people in here who don't work with me, who are sitting in this one. And so we learned some valuable lessons. While middleware is a very descriptive term, it's software that sits between 2 systems. It's not very helpful for faculty who are trying to figure out where they go to their course sites. So we need branding help. If you have suggestions, let me know. So this was really good, but as soon as we got through this, the things started happening, right? And we got kind of questions about, well, okay, you've got this great application, it connects these different systems. What about the rest of us? What about those of us who use one of the other 3 LMSs that you have on the Boise State campus? Our College of Business uses Canvas for their online MBA. Our Ed Tech department uses Moodle for what they're doing. And we just in our College Innovation Design launched OpenEdX as a new platform that we're using for their bridge career programs. And it's something that the Extended Studies department is actually looking into a lot for some of the move work they want to do. Right, so now I got 3 more LMSs. Well, what about our ePortfolio software? We've got ePortfolios. It's got to get extracts. There's stuff that's going to it all the time. How come we're not provisioning that and using that information? And then what about this other student information system? We actually have 2 sources of information that actually control it. Our Center for Professional Development Extended Studies campus uses Aceware instead of PeopleSoft. All right. Okay. Oh yeah, and then we created this new student portal with a new student app. And shouldn't it be able to also access that information? Shouldn't it be aware of what courses are created, what information is created for students? And then wouldn't it be really awesome if we could create our clicker courses automatically as well, so the faculty didn't have to go through and remember they have to do that step? Okay, so now we're starting to get into what the second reason for doing a middleware application is. Once people could see what were possible to do, the flexibility we could offer, it became really important for us to start talking about interoperability, right? So I don't think that landscape of technology that I just had up on the screen is actually all that unique. I think that when you look at the research now and you look at what people are talking about, a lot of people are talking about this fragmented sort of ecosystem of learning technology tools. Gone are the days of monolithic LMSs that serve all purposes, from polling softwares to course evaluations to surveys to everything now has been kind of fragmented out into kind of highly specialized applications. So it's went through this sort of period where companies like Blackboard were buying up all these different companies and incorporating in their core product to now it's kind of this diffusion of these going out into different places. And so this fragmentation, I think, is going to continue, right? I think that that's one of those things we need to be prepared for. And I imagine, is anybody in this room working on a pilot for new technology right now? Anybody got anything that you're trying out, anything new that's going on? Probably 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 things you've been asked to look at over the next year or 2, right? That's going to continue, and that speed is only going to increase. I know that within our department, now that they know that we're willing to do evaluations of new products, it's gotten kind of out of hand. So we're being asked all the time to be able to react to that and think about how we're going to incorporate these things into our ecosystem. One example of how we've done this with our middleware application is integration into our my.BoiseState platform. So my.BoiseState is a student portal page. It's also a mobile application. And what we were able to do is take the information from our middleware application, and since middleware is the only thing that knows PeopleSoft and Blackboard connections, it's able to say whether or not your class schedule, this course that you're taking, has a Blackboard course in it. Right? Is your instructor actually using it? Is the course active and available to students? Middleware is the only thing that understands that 100%. That this is the section from PeopleSoft. This is what it exists in Blackboard. Since you have the ability to merge all those sections together into course sites, there's no other tool that knows all that information. The other thing this page is able to do is pull from Blackboard any of the announcements. So faculty announcements, course announcements, system announcements, and display those. And I don't have any in this example, unfortunately, but there's a little icon that pops up when there's a notification that's available. So this is one of the first ways we started using this data in other places. But when you think about interoperability, there's a couple of things that are really important here. One is provisioning that data instructional for reuse, right? If you're going to make this work, one of the things you have to do is figure out how to build incrementally on top of the data you've already provided. Blackboard requires a set of fields that need to be sent out. If you're using an industry standard like LIS to do it, I can very easily pivot from what I'm sending to Blackboard, if I'm using an industry standard like LIS specification for synchronizing that information into Blackboard, to using an LIS standard, which is also accepted by Canvas. We're also accepted by D2L. We're also accepted by Moodle, right? So if I'm using an industry standard and I'm formatting a file, from a faculty perspective, I don't have to change anything about the way they create course sites. That application works. It connected to PeopleSoft, they enter the data. All I need to do within Middleware is tell it, instead of sending it to Blackboard, send it to Canvas. So it's pretty easy for us to be able to manage that when we're using industry standards. Also, it's modular. We have 3 different modules. I talked about user models, so don't get confused with that. When I say modular, I mean that we have 3 different kind of core pieces to how Middleware works. There's a services layer, right, which is all these kind of web services we put together and collected. There is a sort of a console layer, which is the thing that's almost like the brain. That's how it interprets. That piece of it understands how to format the data for each of the different endpoints that it might potentially send it to. And there's that user layer, the user interface layer, right, which is the front-end development for them to be able to interact with, to make decisions so that we can flow through that process of sending that information out. So we have that modular development because we can work on those 3 pieces independently. I can add new services without having to redeploy the front end to the users. I can change the way the rules work in the back end in the console module without having to redeploy my web services. I can add new features for the faculty members and their interaction withoout doing anything else. So it allows us to be pretty flexible about how we grow and change this over time. And that's been really important for us to be able to think about how we'll handle interoperability. So I thought this was an interesting quote here, right? You can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf, right? They're always going to ask us for more things. They're always going to ask us to do more. And to be able to switch from being totally reactive and stuck in this mode of, okay, it's going to take me 18 months, we're going to have a delicate symphony of extracts, processes, and integrations that need to be managed, and everyone is unique in a snowflake and needs to be done from the ground up, to moving into a position where you're able to look at it and say, hey, you know what, we actually have a really great foundation. We're incrementally adding new features to it, and as we add new features to it, every time I need to do less for the next one. Which brings us to our 3rd reason of doing this. Speed. And yes, I found a way to work Keanu Reeves into my presentation. I'm very proud of that. So, as you go through and do this, you're reducing development effort. I kind of mentioned, for technology adoptions, technology migrations, you know, if you're from an Idaho school, I know Lou, you're from an Idaho school. Anybody else from an Idaho school? All right, so Idaho is just going through and talking about request for proposals for a whole new LMS statewide contract. All right, this can strike fear into anybody's heart of thinking about the type of migration and effort that it would take to go through that process. But for us, not sweating it that much, right? We know that the faculty training on the front end is going to be a pain. Yes, that's a pain. We can deal with that. We'll figure that piece out. But when it comes to how they request course sites, how they interact with the tool to get started, the only thing that needs to change for us is the endpoint, where we send those files to. We're requesting your courses, going through that set of configuration, exactly identical to the way you do it today. Nothing has to change in that way at all. The only thing I need to teach you to do is how to interact with the content, how to interact with your students in that environment. And that's really important for a campus like Boise State that values that academic freedom, that values that flexibility. Because since we don't mandate the use of an LMS, since we don't tell people that this is the only LMS you can use if you're going to use an LMS, we have a real potential if we move away from Blackboard for people to say, well, I don't want to move away from Blackboard. There's a SaaS version of this. My department can buy, you know, my own Blackboard instance, and we don't need to do what you want to do. We're going to go ahead and stick with Blackboard. You guys are on here. Go to Canvas, D12, whatever. We're happy here. Extended Studies is going to stick with Blackboard. Sorry, have a nice day. Or they might say, well, you chose Canvas, but we really like D2L, so we're going to go ahead and go in that direction instead. There is nothing from our provost level down that would prevent people from being able to do that. Now, we could fight it. We could try. I don't know if it'll work. Leaf can tell me if it'll work. I can tell you already I have 4 LMSs on my campus. So it's not historically worked all that well. So if I can make this as painless as possible for people by keeping as much consistent as possible, I'm able to really deal with that and get ahead of it and try and make sure that this is a seamless operation for faculty members. So So from a technology migration perspective, it's much easier for me to deal with that change. From a technology adoption, the more integrations that I do, and the more incremental information that I build into that enterprise service bus and into my enterprise service bus and into the front end of the middleware application, the less development effort it takes me to get things done. So with every time I add a new integration, I think about provisioning a new piece of data, that gets added into those web services. They can be used and reused for future integrations. So if Digication requires birthday and Blackboard didn't, now birthday is part of my web service. And the next one that requires that is one of those fields. It's already provisioned and ready to go. All I got to know is what format you want me to put it in, into the file that needs to be imported, or which web service I use to send it over, whether it's curl or REST or some other API. So it actually improves your velocity significantly by being able to say, I understand how to do these basic industry standards. I understand the data and I provisioned it properly. I provisioned it once. That's the other really wonderful thing here, is a lot of times, especially if it's been years since you originally did provisioning of data, you've added a new system on there, someone will create an entirely new query that provisions data in an entirely new way because the developer who did the first one isn't there anymore, right? And so you've got systems that, I think on campus right now, when I look in our data warehouse, I think we have 3 or 4 definitions for what an active enrolled student is, depending on who you ask on campus, right? If I ask the registrar's office, if I ask admissions, if I ask student services, they have different definitions of what makes an active and enrolled student, right? So this makes it a bit of a challenge when we're thinking about provisioning that data or saying, I need to bring all active enrolled students into it. But if I provision it one time, we have clear definitions, and every time I create a service or I connect one of these systems, I use that same definition. I've got consistency across my tools and make sure that interoperability stays maintained. All right, that's my spiel. Those are the 3 reasons: flexibility, interoperability, and speed. If you change the way you think about the way you handle change within your environment, if you embrace the fact that you cannot stop it, it is coming, and it's going to continue to come through the long haul, and you think about how you can build out services that will allow you to quickly adapt and grow and build up the foundation you've done to move to this more incremental style of development, you can actually get things done a lot better, a lot more efficiently. So I said I had 3. I have a bonus one for you here because I kind of blew through those pretty quickly, and I know it's the end of the day. I know we're thinking about there's a beer bus that's coming, there's food that's coming, but I will go pretty quickly through this one as well. So from a bonus perspective, this is my moment to maybe allow me to wax philosophically. I think that this intersection of technology and pedagogy might actually exist right here in middleware. I don't know if you'll agree with me, so allow me to wax philosophically and see whether or not this actually makes sense to you. But when you think about things like Ruben Puentedura's SAMR model, right? Have you guys seen this before? Are you familiar with this? All right, so basically what Ruben says is, as you kind of move up this ladder, you are engaging in students in more sophisticated ways that allow them to retain information and learn more. And technology plays a role in this. Technology plays a role in allowing people to move up this ladder. So as in some examples, and I don't know, Leaf, you may say these are bad examples, I'm not sure. If you think about it at the substitution level, I might be substituting Google Docs instead of MS Word. I'm not necessarily changing the way you do things. I'm not necessarily, if you're just using it for word processing, the experience is going to be pretty similar. I'm just substituting one technology for another. However, I might be augmenting that. I might be giving you some functional improvements when I talk about the fact that now you can share this document with others, right? Now you can auto-save to the cloud. These are things that allow sort of new opportunities and give some functional improvements. As we move even up more into this transformation area, we talk about this modification, allowing us to redesign tasks. Now I can assign an activity to my students that says, why don't you collaborate through comments and feedback and using this new technology? There's something new here, this feature that allows you to try something new or try a new sort of instructional piece, which is more engaging. And then maybe this final redefinition, we talk about previously inconceivable tasks, things you had no idea you could do before, and now this technology enables you to do. This sort of, let's say in the Google Docs example, continue on this one. Let's say you've got a global classroom, students all over the world. They're going to create a shared narrative together within Google Docs. They're going to go in and each have their own pieces they're going to add. And then at the end of the shared narrative, they're going to create a video in YouTube. And they're going to reflect on the experience of using this shared narrative in this global classroom setting. Now we've done something that we could never do with Google or with Microsoft Word, right? We've completely redesigned that task and done something completely different. So middleware has a place in this. Because one of the challenges that I see all the time when we're going through, and I think that Lana might have talked about this a little bit as she was going through her STEPS model, is you have to take care of some of these efficiency pieces before faculty or students can engage with this new technology in new ways, right? So let's say, for instance, that I want people to use the LMS because there's a lot of affordance in the LMS. If it's difficult, if there's barriers to entry into getting in there and using that LMS system, I'm going to have a certain percentage of people who are never able to make that leap. They're not able to take that first step and then think about how they might use that to change the way students are learning. So if every step along the way, I can think about how we can make this technology more reliable, make it more effortless. Can I reduce some of the effort? For instance, here's an example. I have faculty members who will come and say, I really like to use Top Hat. There's great features within the Top Hat student response system that I want to use. But there's no integration with Blackboard. There's no student roster pieces. The gradebook is kind of clunky. And if I can solve those problems through a middleware application that grabs that information and sources it into the Blackboard environment and makes that a simpler transition for that faculty member, they have to spend less hours managing their gradebook. They spend less time manually entering data. Now they're able to really focus on what's important about that technology, which is changing the way their students are learning their class, being more involved in the active learning piece. And so I think that middleware is an enabler into providing a lot of these things to happen. So I think that you could say the reason number 4 is improving pedagogy, right? Giving faculty the time back to focus on the things that are most important in the learning experience, getting rid of those barriers that prevent them from trying new things, or some of the fear that they have around trying new technologies. So I hope in some ways this helps you rethink your systems integration on campus, your student information systems, your other general system integration on campus. I hope this maybe gives you an opportunity to go back and say, okay, well, what are we doing as far as preparing ourselves to be flexible and nimble as we move forward and add new features or take on new opportunities, new pilots, and those pieces on our campus. And that's what I got for you today. Thanks for hanging in there. Any questions, guys? Yeah?
How long did it take you guys to implement that, and how many person hours did it take to create that middleware?
Our first piece of middleware, the first thing that we had to do was we said, okay, let's take all the features we have right now. And the features that we had at that time were really creating courses, adding teaching assistants, and doing these plan sites, the major minor sites. What would it take us to just kind of lift that up and shift it over into a .NET environment out of the Java so we could actually sustain it? Well, that quickly turned into, couldn't we have just one more feature, maybe 2 more features, 3 more features, and it grew. And so we spent, we probably spent about, I think it was, I'd have to go back and look at the project plan, but I think it was about 250 hours doing that initial build, right?
Okay.
Of development effort on it. And we had one developer working on it. And he kind of worked on it in his spare time a little bit there at the beginning. So it took a little while for us to get this one out there just from a duration perspective.
Yeah.
But the effort wasn't that bad. Now we're at a point where we're using agile development on it, and when I can get the development effort to focus on it, a lot of the features that we're adding, for instance, we want to add a feature for faculty to be able to create sandbox course sites. No student enrollment, so they can just play and experiment with the LMS. Mm-hmm. They really want to do that all the time. That's going to take us, I think it was 2 weeks worth of effort for us to be able to create that. It's really not that big of a deal for us. So, and we're looking at doing things in sprints. So, for instance, we're talking about setting up grade transfer to Blackboard. And unfortunately, I don't know if it's unfortunate, Blackboard has some components that allow you to do this today, right? They've just recently released things in new service packs that make this even easier to do grade transfer. Because middleware sits in between, it's the only thing that knows how the student information system and Blackboard are actually used together. We have to do ours through middleware. To do that, the initial development on it will probably take about 120 hours to do. But once we've done it for Blackboard, doing it for Canvas, 3 days. It'll take us 3 days to finish that same integration for Canvas. How long for Moodle? 3 days. So it makes it very, the first one, it's going to take me weeks to do, right? About, what is that? 120 hours, 40 hours a week if I got a full-time developer on it. 3 weeks?
It'll take
Yeah,
3 to 4
about 3 weeks. Yeah, and that's if I can get him focused.
Dedicated.
Yeah. So from 3 weeks to 3 days. And as I move forward, it'll give it the same kind of effort. So, the incremental nature of it is really what pays off over a long time. That initial development effort was more intense for sure. Yeah.
We use Moodle, and we're much smaller than you guys, so we manually do the course merges.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering if you run into problems when the professors themselves, like they're renaming the courses, they're naming them, so like there's not a standard syntax they're using. So they're not doing section ABC, or they're going I mean, they're not going to go my summer biology class, but
Right.
I'm just wondering if you run into that problem.
I would say that the vast majority of faculty members usually use the default name that we give them. It'll say it's like semester and then the course description that comes from the course catalog. So it definitely happens.
Change though too, like the ID is going to be static.
Yeah, the course ID is completely static.
They can't
so
change
they
that.
can't
They
touch
can't
that.
mangle it so bad that it's unrecoverable.
Right.
But we do have faculty that will create their course site as like Jen's Fun Zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, no.
And, you know, sometimes we run into issues with that, but they can go in and change their course name at any time for any reason.
Yep.
So as soon as they realize it's a problem, whether their students come to them and say, can you, I don't know which one's yours in my Blackboard. Because I have 2 biology classes and yours just says biology.
Yeah.
They can go in and change it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we don't have to make any of those adjustments for them. We just usually get a call and we call them up and we're like, hey, by the way, your student's confused and didn't want to come to you because they thought it was kind of weird. And that's usually, it's taken care of pretty easily.
By the way, this is Jennifer Woodell. She's our Blackboard administrator again.
Do you guys more tightly control those display names?
Yeah,
Okay.
like they can't change that. And then when we create it for them, you know, we're very specific.
That kind of touches on the guiding principles here, the freedom and flexibility that we allow
Yeah.
faculty, but they also assume that risk themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It causes confusion.
And it's hard because, you know, we've talked about this a lot. If we went through an LMS change or we were going to do something else, would we want to control that more? Because we do run into situations where it's confusing for students, or it may cause challenge even for the instructor who's got 3 or 4 courses over the course of their teaching multiple semesters that look exactly the same to them because they always like to name it the same thing. And they get confused when they're copying course content. So we've talked about it, but the challenge is right now, once you've given people that freedom, oh man, taking it away. it's
The nice
it's rough.
thing is though, is we have this one instructor, Mr. Inez, and he teaches 3 workshops every summer, and it's cross-listed across 6 different departments. So it's in 6 different colleges, and the students all register within the college they need the credit. And then he merges all of those into one Blackboard course, and it's usually only like 45 students. But he is able to take and name his course whatever's going to make sense to those students.
Yeah.
And it's never like his class is named Seinfeld,
Yeah.
Analyzing Seinfeld for Fun.
Yeah.
It's a workshop in the summer, but it's sociology, it's anthropology, it's English, it's writing, like it's huge.
It'd be a long name.
But that flexibility that he gets from it is so powerful.
And also the distributed administration component. That's how many Blackboard or how many administrators do you have on your campus for your LMS?
Well, we have like, you know, one, probably main one, and then like I do some administrative. My coworker does. We probably have 3.
And about how many courses do you think you create a semester?
A lot.
A lot.
Not like 2,500.
Okay.
Probably like, geez, like a fifth of that.
Okay.
Are there any like sub-admins though embedded within different programs that are helping with some of that setup work?
Not really.
So we're able to, because of this tool, we're able to offload a lot of that administrative functions. And it's nice because we can do this without delegating permissions within Blackboard.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have to give you the rights to merge course sites at any time in Blackboard. I give you rights only when you have a section that you're teaching within Blackboard, and this is, you know, so it's all managed to that. So we don't do hardly any of that anymore. Well, we fix some stuff at the beginning of the semester because they always screw up a few things. But we only have 2 Blackboard admins running all the things that we do. And so we're able to, by offloading a lot of that work to the faculty members and empowering them to do that work, we spend a lot less money on the resources to actually support it and do those manual operations.
And
a
we
lot
have
less.
course coordinators that utilize this middleware system, and like the College of Nursing, they are wicked locked down on what you name your course and how you name it, and like, so they have a coordinator that does all of the course requests and all the course copies for all their faculty, and they do all the work for them, which is great because I don't have to.
Yeah.
They just go into middleware and they have elevated permissions in middleware, and they can request all of that and like tweak it and add instructors or add builders and remove builders, and
So it's pretty nice because of, like, they take their coordinators, this person who's designated a coordinator, and they list them when they submit their courses that they want to be listed in the catalog. They submit this person's name as a secondary instructor, And so being a secondary instructor allows you access to middleware to be able to manage those courses. So for the department, for math department, for the remedial math, we teach about 117 sections of remedial math. So they're all individual course sites. They don't need to be merged or anything. And so that coordinator will come in, they search the term, they check the boxes for all the course sites, they say one course per section, they hit create, and they're done. Like all those courses are done. So it allows them to move really quickly, and the faculty have no engagement in it at all. They don't need to. Their program coordinator manages all the course creation and whatnot through the middleware tool. So if they want to add a TA or anything like that, the coordinators do it as well. So that's helpful.
And I just had one more quick question.
Sure.
So for the student end though, do they log into the middleware? Like do they have a class in Blackboard?
No, they
class
just,
in Google?
students don't even know it exists, right? So faculty and coordinators, some staff on campus interact with it, but students, they just go straight to Blackboard.
Okay.
And most of the time they launch it from that portal by clicking on that little Blackboard link that you saw in that example. So they get in straight through there. And that link deep links them directly to the landing page. They click on the announcements, it deep links them directly into the announcements page. So you can see those different things. And then we've set up rules around how long announcements persist and what kind of announcements we show and all that kind of fun stuff, which is great. Those are all based on services and service, front-end development. So we try and make the services as broad as possible, and then we filter what we need in the application, right? So that I can have generic services that can be reused over and over and over again, and applications that know exactly what I need to do in cases there. Cool. Any other questions? You guys ready for food and beer? Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Appreciate it.